All right, today or right now, we're going to talk about critique. So, what's a critique? First of all, I want you to think a little bit about the concept of thinking critically. So, one can think in an objective way and also a subjective way. And these are words that you would hear in a foundation art class as an introduction to thinking critically, which is really important for an art critique and important for being able to really understand how we express ourselves and express ourselves specifically during an art critique. So, objective thought or objective ways of thinking is based on facts. And it's usually of a person's judgment, based from a person's judgment and based off of facts, as I said. And subjective ways of thinking is based and influenced by a personal feeling or a taste that someone may have or opinions that they may have. So in this little clip art below, um, objective thinking, these are oranges, and subjective thinking, I love oranges. So these are based off of feelings more so, based off of facts more so. So that's just a really simple introduction to those two concepts on thinking critically. Now, this quote I thought was really enlightening because I think that you can think objectively of art and subjectively of art. If you see a sculpture, you could say, yes, that is in fact a sculpture, but you could also say something like, the sculpture makes me feel a certain way. And this quote by the famous Russian writer Leo Tolstoy says, art is the uniting of the subjective with the objective, of nature with reason, of the unconscious with the conscious, and therefore art is the highest means of knowledge. And I think that I love that quote because I do think that to even recognize or have the ability to recognize when you are thinking objectively and when you're thinking subjectively can not only help you within art critique, but it can also help you in the way that you interact with your loved ones or people in the workplace. It's definitely a really strong skill set to have and to take with you for the rest of your life. So, just to begin, let's talk about critique experiences. So, what is any past experience with critique? If you haven't been in an art class before, think about any feedback from a teacher or peer review that you may have had. Think about your likes and dislikes, eye opening moments or frustrations. You can even think about the time that you told your friend who was getting dressed that these shoes would look better than these other shoes with their outfit. These we give little criticisms all throughout the day, but an art critique just is kind of a more fleshed out and longer. We sit with our thoughts a little bit longer, and we work on articulating ourselves for our peers during art critique. So, what is the purpose of an art critique? I think the purpose of critiques are to shift your perspectives. We will spend a whole week making something, and we'll think that um, maybe the meaning or the way that we thought it would be conveyed to our audience means one thing, but then the day that we have our art critique, the audience, which is our peers, would think that there would be a multiple perspectives of how they view your work, which is really interesting to see how different people's backgrounds really influence the way that we look at the world visually. Understanding multiple points of views are a good purpose, which I think also goes with shifting perspectives, broadening your horizons. People and critiques will often come to critiques saying, "Oh, this piece of art that you made today reminds me of my favorite artist um, named this person," and then show you, or you could write that person's name down and look that person's name up on your own time and figure out maybe another artist who is like a kindred spirit of yours, which is always really exciting and eye opening. And it also helps you think critically, like thinking subjectively or thinking objectively, things of that nature. So the point of critique is to be productive. So be productive with your critique. Like for your intake, what you can take in for your critique is take notes of what your peers said in your sketchbook or on a piece of paper. The words may inspire you, and really be open minded. Um, I think we should just all know that art critiques are not meant to um, say hurtful things or whatever, take stabs at people. It's really a space where we kind of let our minds open up to receive um, any sort of words that could influence us, or understand how our art is influencing our audience. And so, like, some feedback that you can give with critique is balancing out the both the positives and the negatives. Don't, both things are very important. It's good to be honest. Like, why do you why does this handle on this pot look like it's placed in a way that would make it hard for me to lift the pot, for example? Or um the fingers of this hand in this drawing look like they're made out of cigars, and that makes me laugh. That even sometimes these are maybe, we try to look at the art without trying to really know exactly what the art student is trying to create, but we're just giving them our interpretations. And these can be positive or negative interpretations, but it's always based off of the individual. It's never an objective fact. So mention what is enjoyable and what isn't, and why. I think that's always a good place to start out. If you have a if this is your first time making art criticisms, and you can just start with what's enjoyable and what isn't, but also mention why. And try to be constructive. And that's why I think the why is so important. So that'll help you help construct your reasoning of what is enjoyable and what isn't. So critique language is, try to avoid solely using I like or dislike. It's okay to use these words, but it's just kind of I'm I'm made this page on this slide is meant for you to think a little bit outside of just like I like that color or I dislike that form. So you can be more beneficial to your peers and think of these concepts of observation and say something like, I noticed that you added an interesting texture to your form. And then analysis, that texture seems to command the viewer's attention. And then interpretation, I feel as though that texture is telling the viewer to think of this form as something with life and importance, and da 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 da. So these are really good concepts to keep in mind, and even in that way, like 1, 2, 3 can really help you form what you're trying to say about someone's work. What skills will you gain from art critiques? More confidence in what your art means, the ability to confront people to avoid conflicts. I mean, because really, it's a way of being able to say things without passing a judgment, which is something that you can talk about with art, but you can take that skill and you can take that into your workplace and into your family life, and um, it can. Oops, that's supposed to say broaden. It can broaden your vocabulary to express what you are feeling and thinking, and it can give you empowerment for taking criticism as well. So I know it can be really scary because no one wants to feel like they did anything wrong. But that's really what the purpose of art critique too is, just to make sure that everyone has a space where they can show their work with people that they can trust, to not just say, oh, you're wrong, or you failed at this, but to really kind of uplift them and say, oh, I see what you did, and this is what I understand from what you did, and then so on and so forth. I know that I personally loved my when I was in art school. I loved art critique days. They were just a really nice way to finally get the feedback from people, to just to understand like what have I been up to, for the past week, just maybe drawing for a whole week and finally getting other eyes to see it and other interpretations, and all of these extra interpretations also help, like I said, with the vocabulary. Like if you ever have to write an artist statement or something like that, anything that other people say during your critiques is something that you can use for your artist statement or whatever your art is about. So it's a good place for you to find the words that you might not be able to form yourself after you make an art project. And I mean, I also really liked art critique because as a teacher, I really do like helping people, and I felt like it was always like a nice space to help out my peers in the classroom. So if you don't really like the receiving the feedback, maybe you could enjoy giving it. But that is it on art critiques, and there's more to come as always. All right, thank you.